What's going on, suppers? What's happening? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to another edition, another show of the Suit Up Podcast. Today, we are talking about the power of movie magic. We're going to be talking about our top 3 movies, about why we fell in love with cinema. Joining us today is my man, Loretto. Loretto, are you ready to suit up?
Let's suit up.
Suit up.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you, always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
I do this all day. What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Cat.
I'm always angry. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
All right, guys, we are back. I've got Loretto, our co-host today. Follow him on Twitter at Marcellus Durnan. He is part of Movies Matrix. Check out Movies Matrix on Twitter and moviesmatrix.com. What's going on, Lo?
My man, it has been too long, my friend. And to anybody that doesn't know, Movies Matrix, we just relaunched our brand new website. We're churning out great content. I posted 3 articles in the past 3 days. Check it out if you have time, moviesmatrix.com.
Check it out, guys. Awesome, awesome content. If you're a lover of film, TV, whatever. HBO Max, I got some awesome stuff on HBO Max. I've been looking at that stuff because I'm on the fence about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway.
The catalog's pretty saucy, man. Friends, Looney Tunes, all of HBO's originals. And I'm a big classic film guy, so they got me hooked with the TCM stuff.
Awesome. So today we are going to count down our favorite movies about why we fell in love with cinema. Before we get started, Loretto, what are your variables? Like what went into the selection of your movies?
Well, speaking of my articles I just wrote, I actually based this topic off of an article that I wrote. It was The Power of Movie Magic, and I just wanted to touch upon that feeling of, when I was young. We'll go into what movie did this for me, but just there was a couple movies that just blew my mind, and it surpassed film and cinema. It just made me think, like, this is, like, in a sense, like, to not overuse the term, it was like magic when I was a child. Like, I didn't understand how they can make this feel and seem so real. And that was the inspiration for the piece. And I interviewed some of our Movies Matrix guys, and I shot the question at you, and I thought it'd be fun to talk about it. So
let's do it. All right. So I have 5 honorable mentions. Do you have honorable mentions?
I could bring up a few, but I'm sure we'll probably be touching the same stuff. So I'm excited to hear yours.
My variables are pretty much identical to what you just said. So this is going to be really fun because I don't know Lowe's list. He doesn't know mine. So let's start off with my honorable mentions. First up, and this might be a surprise, but I have The Mummy on my list. And it's a movie that I'm not calling like one of my favorite movies of all time, one of the best movies of all time. It's just a movie that there's something about it that's so fun and wonderful, and it's just pure escapism. And when we go through my list, I think you're going to find some similarities. So there's something like this movie, The Mummy, is all about why I go to the movies. Like, it's the definition of the summer blockbuster, and that's going to be a common trend. You're going to see another movie for me is Twister. I just love Twister. Like, whereas The Hangover made me want to go to Las Vegas and drink, and a full weekend of debauchery with my closest friends, man. Twister, dude, it had that same level of impact, man. The second I got out of that theater, I immediately wanted to become a tornado chaser. I immediately wanted to become a meteorologist, and I just became so overly obsessed with tornadoes, man. It was like all I think about. My next movie is The Lion King. For obvious reasons, I only have one animated movie in my top 3. This did not make the list, but for all the reasons, it's a classic. The Iron Giant, man. The Iron Giant is right up there right up there with my only animated movie on my list. There are no cheap laughs in The Iron Giant. It's kind of like E.T. It's like about the friendship of a boy and like this thing from outer space, or this mysterious robot. But it's got a ton of heart, man. Like watching the boy teach the robot like the teachings of life and stuff. There's so much innocence to it, and there's so much beauty to it. Just so good, man. There's just not many movies. It was Pixar before Pixar became what it is today, and it was directed by Brad Bird. And my last one is The Matrix. The last one is another movie where my for some reason, like my main memory of The Matrix is not like the awesome technical achievements. Like this is such a movie that's an achievement in film, but my main memory was when I was a kid watching this for the first time in the theater. I was so obsessed with Rage Against the Machine. And I remember just leaving that theater just full of adrenaline. Like I was so hyped about what I just saw, and watching like Neo just like fly as the credits hit to Wake Up, I think it was. Just so awesome.
Dude, awesome list of honorable mentions, man. I think maybe we should have did 10. And I'm really glad you brought up Twister. That is one of my favorite films of all time. And you hit everything, man. It's so fun. The special effects are fantastic. I felt like I was in front of the Twister. The sound mixing, especially if I don't know how many of the young people remember, but THX, any movie that had THX sound, you were shaking in your chair with just beautiful sound.
Yeah.
I was actually terrified of the tornado sound. The first time I saw it, we had to leave the theater because I was freaking out. I was really little. And I didn't watch it again until we rented it, and the sound wasn't pounding on my eardrums, so to say. I only have one quick honorable mention because it just didn't quite. I mean, it blew me away, but I saw it later in my life compared to the movies that I'm going to discuss on the main list. Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
One of my favorite heroes of all time, one of my favorite actors of all time, and one of my favorite directors of all time. It's a win-win-win. And the first time I saw Indy go into that temple, and there was booby traps and spiders, and you step on the spikes come out, and then the great, epic, iconic ball that everybody knows, and he's running from the boulder of doom, blew my mind. But I saw a lot of that very late. I didn't see it when I was young, and I saw it when I was older. So
I kind of did the same thing. I did not add any movies like Star Wars. I am a diehard Star Wars fan, but they're not on my list because I didn't see it when I was a kid. So I think that's important to kind of say before we get started here, is that obviously Empire Strikes Back would be ridiculous. Go
100%.
ahead.
And actually, I'm so sorry. One more honorable mention, because I got to bring this up. Shout out to the creator of Movies Matrix, our guy Todd. Awesome guy. You can find him on Twitter at Superhero Poll. His choice when I interviewed everybody was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I gotta say, I had very similar emotions, man. I was a child, and I had just read the book, the Roald Dahl novel at school, and seeing it, I was like, "Oh my god! Like, I want to be there. I want to eat the giant gummy bear. Look at the chocolate river. I just want to swim in it and eat it. Like, it's just." What an imagination by Roald Dahl, and a great way to bring it to life. Hats off to the late Gene Wilder, one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think that kind of definitely falls in my category of my top 3 here. And escapism, and the other word you're going to be hearing a lot is world building. And that is where I get my top 3, is like being immersed in this giant world where there's so much happening at the same time, and you just want to throw yourself into it. That to me is the power of movie magic. What about any last thoughts before we get into it, man?
Let's dig in.
Let's do it. All right, let's go with your number 3. Go ahead, dude.
All right, so within my piece, it's actually the excerpt from there. I brought up Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, 2 of the most iconic film characters in history, and arguably spun off an animated series in Rick and Morty, in like spiritual sense, not actual characters. But when I was a child, that movie I couldn't believe it. I thought cars could fly. That movie made me believe time travel existed. And for its time in 1985, those special effects were spectacular. the lightning hitting the tower, and just I was engrossed in that final act when Doc has to plug in the wires because the storm and the wind knocked the wires over, and Marty McFly is racing down the DeLorean. He's got to hit 88, but at the second he hits 88, the lightning has to strike the rod in the car, and just wonderful, exciting storytelling. It was nail-biting, it was suspenseful, and so rewarding in all the right ways. You know, that moment you see the DeLorean send off and you see the trail of fire that the wheels leave, and Doc does that little happy dance he does, and he just, I did it. I sent him back to the future. Oh man, that's a heartwarming moment, and just in every sense of the word, as magical as I can describe it.
That's kind of how that's a great one, man. It's kind of how I saw The Mummy, and I'm not comparing the two. Obviously, Back to the Future is way better than The Mummy, but
hey, The Mummy's awesome.
It's awesome.
But don't discredit it too much.
It's a good freaking time, is like the point, is just pure escapism. The film score, the Huey Lewis, and the soundtrack, just all time. We actually watched it the other day. It's definitely a movie that holds its own, no matter how old it is. Just a really, really good one, man. My number 3, dude, is The Nightmare Before Christmas. So I just love this movie. I love it. I love it. I love it. And not only is it my all-time favorite animated movie, but Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas is hands down the absolute best Christmas movie of all time. Because if we're talking about the power of movie magic, I'm going to throw in a little Christmas magic in there. All right. So, but yeah, the stop motion medium of this film blew my mind when I saw it for the first time in the theater. I just remember being just completely obsessed with everything about this film and the animation, the textures, the attention to detail, the characters, the setting. It's just a masterclass in animation. But that Danny Elfman score, that soundtrack, man, I still listen to it to this day routinely. If you want, I love to cook. Like, if you find me cooking, you're gonna 80% of the time that soundtrack is gonna be on.
Nice.
And it's just such a deep movie for its time, man. There's again, like The Iron Giant, like this is a very adult themed children's movie. You know, it's about a character that's trying to find his meaning in life, and he wants to do better. And who doesn't relate to that, man? It was just such a beautiful film, and it's to this day just blows my mind. That's a movie that is just full of magic.
Love it.
All right, let's go to number 2, dude.
All right. For me, number 2, admittedly, this one I was a little bit older, but the sheer fascination and, like you said, incredible world building. I think this film that I'm going to talk about just crosses all the checks off all the marks. The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
No,
I got to tell you. So this is a good story. So I was like going into like freshman year of high school, just about, and the trailer, I was like freaking out. I was like, what is this? I went to my best friend. I was like, dude, what is this? And he was like, oh, it's based on fantasy books, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God. I bought the book. I read it. And then good, like, Lord help me, man. When that movie came out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
Middle Earth literally came to life for me. The first shot of the Shire, and the fact that Peter Jackson and his incredible crew built these sets in New Zealand, and not only did they build these sets, they left it there for a year so that the grass and the shrubbery and all of the plants around it could actually grow upon the set as if it's been there for hundreds of years, which is what genius set design. And then going into one of my favorite moments in the film, which is filled with endless iconic rewatchable moments for me, going into Rivendell.
Yeah.
The realm of the elves, the waterfall and the elven like palace. It was just so beautiful, and the score. Howard Shore did an amazing job with the like angelic, like uplifting tones, and lastly, the monolith. Seeing the kings of old as they go down the river, and they're in the little boats and they see the statues made of stone, and oh man, it just takes my breath away. And just like you brought this up in a couple shows prior, and you were most recently talking about in Snowpiercer. Middle Earth itself is a character in the films, and it captures your imagination in all the best ways.
Oh, man, well freaking said. My number 2, The Fellowship of the Ring, man.
Air 5, I love it. We're right there. There you go.
I know, that's so funny. It's my second favorite genre. Oh, it's so funny. But no other film holds a special place in my heart like The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, dude. Just the other two are just really, really incredible films. Return of the King and Two Towers, man. They're amazing, amazing films. But the heart and the soul of The Lord of the Rings is The Fellowship of the Ring, man. No question. Just you mentioned it. When you say soul, you think of the Shire. Between the film score, that warm embrace of Gandalf riding up to Hobbitown, and just like watching all of that like proceed, man. That's the heart of the soul. Like it sets up.
It is never late, Mr. Baggins.
Like it's so much heart, and it sets up the rest of the film so beautifully. And when I think of movie magic, man, I think of imagination, and I can't think of one better than Middle Earth. Man, you've got elves, you got dwarves, you got wizards, you got trolls, you got good versus evil, the Shire, different races trying to work together. Man, it's got it all, and it was just revolutionary in so many respects. Fantasy films before this was like basically non-existent, and like the sweeping long shots of New Zealand and the score, and it was just a movie that was larger than life. And you touched on it with the Shire, how much time and love went into this trilogy, man. And then we get to the casting, which is pitch perfect. So just none other than Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, brings out the intimacy of these characters. And of course, we got to just take a little nod to Gandalf here. I just saw on Twitter that they're doing on Sunday a YouTube thing on the Lord of the Rings where the all cast is going to get together. That's going to be freaking... I freaked out today just saw that.
Dude, same. I'm not gonna lie. I teared up because that's one of my favorite quotes of all time, and he friggin' said it.
Yeah.
All we have to decide is what to do with the time that we're given. And oh man, I got choked up, man.
So good. It's a movie that I watch over and over and over. I'm obsessed. I am straight up obsessed with the Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah, if I find it, I'm watching it. It's like Rocky to me. All right, what's your number 1, man?
I think we're gonna be 2 for 2 here. I'm looking at your little quote. I got my fun little shirt on. and shout out to my boy Michael, Mike. You can find him on Twitter at The Exported Film. His choice on the article I wrote was Jurassic Park, and that was probably one of my favorite experiences cinematically, visually, thematically in my lifetime. The great Steven Spielberg, all thanks. I mean, how many times has he taken us away?
Yeah.
But for me, this is my favorite Spielberg film. That moment, and you talked about it on Twitter, I 100% agree. That moment when Laura Dern and Sam Neill are climbing out of the Jeep, he takes his glasses off, and then you get the shot of the Brachiosaurus, right? The long neck, and he's eating, and it's like, when I was a child, I thought, holy crap, that's a freaking dinosaur. And I didn't have any concept of computer-generated images.
Yep.
I had no concept of visual effects. I just saw, dinosaur. And then, again, I talked about it with you when we were talking about it. The rumble when he jumps down and hits the ground and you feel the ground shake. It's like you're there. And then John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, delivers that wonderful line.
Yeah.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
And the score.
Oh, this John Williams score hits. Na, 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 na. And my heart, man, it soars and my soul is uplifted. And it's just such a beautiful moment to witness. I can watch that forever. I can watch Jurassic Park over and over and over. And on top of all that, Spielberg takes some of his best elements from Jaws, and then he really creates terror, because as wonderful as dinosaurs are, we're in awe at the veggie eating dinosaurs, but there are carnivores, and holy crap, the king of the show, the T-Rex, incredible animatronics that brought him to life. I was watching a great featurette on YouTube about the difficulties of creating that T-Rex, and it was full of hydraulics and robotics by the great Stan Winston. And what's funny is they didn't calculate of him moving in the rain, which created problems of its own. And you know, when you finally see the film and see the T-Rex attacking the Jeep in the rain, you never would have thought they had any such problems. And I think that's a testament to everybody involved. It's a masterclass in filmmaking and one of the best films I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no shock, man. It's Jurassic Park. You saw my quote down there. Hold on to your butts. It's one of my favorite movie quotes of all time. Cheers to the great Sam Jackson. Love you, buddy. Ah, man, Jurassic Park. This might not be the original summer blockbuster, but it's my personal favorite summer blockbuster, and that is, man, Jurassic Park. What can you say, dude? Jurassic Park just took my breath away. I was 9 freaking years old when this movie came out. Fully in love with dinosaurs. Completely obsessed with everything T-Rex, Brachiosaurus, you name it, Triceratops, and like you said, you nailed it, dude. It just blew my mind. It changed everything about how I thought what a movie could be, artistically, everything. It just completely shook me to the core. And you mentioned the soundtrack. I have a whole thing on the soundtrack. You nailed it. But man, that first moment, like you said about the Brachiosaurus, is just, to this day, the best movie magic moment in my personal life. And seeing dinosaurs walk the earth again was something that you just don't forget. And I think what makes Jurassic Park so effective, dude, is that it shows both humans and the dinosaurs as the threats. And I think that's why it's so effective, because it's you know, the humans in this film are also invaders, you know, maybe even more so than the dinosaurs. So it's just, I'm not a reader, and that movie alone made me want to go out and buy that book by Michael Crichton. And I remember reading it like within 2 days. I was so engrossed in this world. But yeah, the dinosaurs, the Brachiosaurus march, the T-Rex chase, the raptors in the kitchen, man, like, it's crazy to think that this movie came out in the 90s, because you watch this, like, you wouldn't know it. You absolutely would not know it. And it's just the visual effects are still top notch. It just shows you practical effects. In the end, win 10 out of 10 times.
Every time. You know what's an underrated line too is when Sam Neill's like leaning down the grass and he's watching all the other dinosaurs in that little lake, and he's like, they're moving in herds. And then he changes his past tense. They do move in herds because they're no longer past figures. They are living and breathing in front of him. I thought that was underrated. And also shouts out to that final iconic moment with the T-Rex and the banner of when the dinosaurs rule, the earth falls down, and he lets out that roar inside of the building. Oh, just takes me away, man.
We went to Hawaii. And I remember specifically renting a car and driving around different locations and going to like different spots where the movie was filmed. And that's awesome. Yeah, just so epic. Any last comments before we wrap it up, dude?
That's about it, man.
All right, cool. All right, make sure you check out The Power of Movie Magic at Movies Matrix on Twitter and moviesmatrix.com. Check out all the content Loretto's pumping out. Check him out on Twitter at Marcellus Durden. I am Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. For Loretto, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Until next time.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you. Always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
Do this all day. What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Captain.
I'm always angry. Some men just want to watch the